Welcome CSC 103 for spring 2022 to exercise 15, our intro to HTML, CSS, and eventually some JavaScript, but we're just going to work in HTML and a little CSS right now. It's web development languages that we're going to work with. And right now you're looking at a sample from last fall, and it has a fall image and it has fall colors, so I thought we'd record one for the spring, so it has spring colors and a spring image, plus to address any issues that may have changed in Replit, because there's little differences that happened since they upgraded. So we're going to go through this right now. So all we're going to do is make a headline, a subheadline, and two paragraphs. This paragraph is basically a couple words. This paragraph is a bunch of words, and it's placeholder paragraph, so we can actually just put it in there. We don't have to type it. And then we're just going to put an image on our page, just to work a little bit with HTML, which is the structure and the content, and CSS, which gives it its color, its layout, its margin, and its background color, all that kind of stuff. So we're going to do that now. So this is what we're going to do. It's very simple, basic introduction. So I'm going to close this tab up. This is our preview window where we see our website, and then we're going to go back to our Replit window. Now you've worked with Replit with Python, so it should be familiar working with this, and this is a previous one from the fall. So I'm going to start this from scratch, so I'm going to go back to my main repels, and again, this one was from the fall, so I'm going to make a new one. So remember, this hamburger menu here kind of opens up your little menu here of repels, and also if you see any other videos that tells you to go into your account to change the theme, you can go down here to change the theme to dark and light. I saw another video and I was telling people to go into the account and all this kind of stuff, where you can do that, but it's a lot easier just to go here. So whatever theme you like. I'm going to work in a dark theme right now, so I'll leave it there, but it's very easy to do it there. But just remember, this menu comes out like that, and you can create a new repel here, you can create one here, you can look at your repels here, but I'm going to create a new one, so I'm going to hit create. And I'm seeing HTML, CSS, and JS right now. If you don't see that, if you're seeing Python and stuff like this, and you're like, what's he talking about? Just go in here and type HTML, and you should see this come up. It'll have that 5 on it for HTML5, that little shield, and just click on that. And then over here, just put 15-HTML, CSS, intro, or you could just put dash your last name, first initial. I'll just do that. I'm just going to put dash SP22. You don't have to do that, but I'm just doing that just because I have other versions in here, so I'm just doing that for me. But you don't have to do that. Just put your last name and then create repel. And here it is, and it'll kind of start it off for you. And you'll see an index HTML file, a style.css file, and a JavaScript file, .js, which we don't need. Now this is a preview area, kind of like the turtles that we worked on, but we don't really need to look at it here, and we don't need this console either. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to open this up in a new window, and it says hello world, and I'm going to keep that open, and I'll keep refreshing it whenever we make changes. And I'm going to move this over because I don't really need that right now. We're going to do all our coding here. And also, we can get rid of this hello world, and there's a link to a script. So I'm going to delete that, and I'm also going to go here and delete the JavaScript. If you don't delete it, it's no problem, but I'm just going to delete it just so we're not confused by too many files there. So we're just going to work with our index HTML and our style.css, and we're just going to do some very basic kind of setup here. And also, if you go in your settings, just make sure you have indent size at 4 and set to tabs. Now initially it doesn't do that. These aren't tabbed in all the way, so you could do this, not a big deal. You can kind of highlight all of these, tab them over, and then just kind of back up so they're kind of lined up correctly. Now when we hit returns, they should line up correctly. So when we go here to body and we hit a return, we can type H1, and I think it said something like hello from Replit or something, but we can use a shortcut to write code, so we don't have to write all these tags with less than and greater than signs. We could just type H1 and then hit your tab key. Watch this, how cool this is. H1 and hit tab. Boom! There you have H1 tags, opening tag, closing tag. It's an H1 element, which is a headline, but there's an opening H1 tag and a closing H1 tag. And we're just going to put hello from Replit, even though you've used Replit before, and that's all we're going to do from there. And then we can add a subheadline. I'll just go down here, hit return, and on the next line, just type H2, which is a second level headline. It's a little bit smaller than H1. and you can just type H2 and magically hit the tab key, and it'll put two opening and closing tags for the H2 element. Remember, H2 element, opening tag, closing tag has the / on it. And in here we can just put CSC 103 Spring 2002. And also what we could do is up here in the title, it says Replit right now. That's the title that shows up on the tab, or it would be on a window if it opened up in a new window. We'll just put CSC 103.15 and HTML-CSS, and you could put your last name on it. That's all you need. Now, even what we're doing here, these don't have to have underscores and dash. This is just regular text that can be up here. So however you do this, it isn't a big deal. You could put it any way you want, and it's just to identify your tab when you see it, so it doesn't just say Replit on it. So if we look at what we have so far, if we go here and hit refresh, now that's what we have so far. Not too exciting, but we'll put a little bit more. So then we'll put a paragraph. Just get used to some of the HTML elements. Another element is a paragraph, just like you're working in Word. We'll put P and then we'll put tab. And in here, we'll just put this is a paragraph. Again, not too exciting. And that just indicates that it's a paragraph, and it should have some default space before and after it. And I'll put a period here. And I'll refresh. It won't show up until I refresh. It's still spinning. It's going slow for some reason here. And there it is. And finally, I'll put another paragraph. And this time, I'm going to do a paragraph where I put P, and then inside it, you can use a arrow. And I'm just going to put lorem 30. I'm not sure how many words we put in here, but what that'll do is it'll put lorem ipsum, which is just this Greek text. You can see it right here. And it's just placeholder text. And I'm just going to put that in there right now, and it puts 30 words. And then just hit tab. And if you have any problem, just backspace and try it again. So that's lorem ipsum text. It's like Greek text or Latin text they put in there just to fill up, just so when you're doing layout, it looks like you have some body copy. So again, if we refresh it, that's what it looks like. So nothing too exciting. And finally, we'll put in a picture. Let's put in a picture here, or an image, I should say. And after this, we're just going to put img, and that's an image, and it's going to be an image source. You'll have to put where it comes from. So I'll hit tab, and there it is, image source. Now the alt tag, this little alt attribute here, just basically means it's alternate text in case the image doesn't show. You could see something, and it's also for text-to-speech readers. So the source is actually for where the image is. It could be online, or it could be over here somewhere. Now what I'll do is I'll just look up some spring image. I already started searching. I just started searching spring. I don't know why I have 2002. I'll just search spring, and I'll just look up images, and nice images here. Here's a nice one. And I'll click on this, and I can see it's 960 by 540. That's its physical size in pixels. And what I'll do, instead of copying and paste it, I can't paste it in my page. So I have to actually link to the address or put it in my Replit. What I'll do is just say copy image address. Now that may be worded differently in Firefox or if you're in Internet Explorer, but you want basically the link address. Not the link address, you actually want the image address, where the image is when you're in here. So I'm not sure what else it might say, but let me know if you have any questions if it says something different. But we're going to copy image address, and that'll copy where that image is. And then I'm going to go in here, and I'll just paste it here. And that's the image address. Sometimes you'll see a real long name, but it should end up with some name like .jpeg or something else. If it doesn't, sometimes it won't show up. There's kind of odd things that you'll see in searches sometimes, but it should show up as an image file, like a JPEG or a PNG or something. So this is showing that it's on some website, on uploads or whatever, and I'm just going to put Spring Pick here as the alternate text. Again, that's just if the image doesn't load. Now, if I hit run, you don't have to hit run, but I get in the habit of doing that, and I go here and I refresh it, I'll see an image. Now, it's pretty big right now. You can resize it a couple ways. We'll do it with CSS, but right now you can also go in here, put another attribute, and I'll actually put it before the alt, and I'll just put width equals, and attributes in HTML are in quotes, and they're also separated by spaces. So here's a source attribute, which is the address of where it's at, and then there was the alt attribute of Spring Pick, and it's messed up right now because I don't have my second quote, but I'm going to put width 400, and then make sure I finish off the quote and add the space. So make sure there's space between the next attribute. There's space here. It doesn't matter if you have a space on the equal signs or not on either side. They don't have to be there. But let's see what this looks like when I put that with attribute in there. And it's still refreshing. It's going slow for some reason in the afternoon. Sometimes at night it goes a little faster, but it's going slow right now. That's a little small. I'll make it a little bit bigger. I'll maybe make it like 500. Now it keeps it in proportion, so I'll do that again. And that looks fine right now. And all we're going to do now for this intro is just style it a little bit. We're just going to use some CSS and style this. Now what CSS is we're going to work in a style file called CSS, and there's this wow thing in here which we could get rid of because we're not going to use it. But actually, before I get rid of it, you can see that there's a class called wow. Now we're not going to use a class right away, but basically the way it works is you target something like an H1 or body or something. For example, I could just type over here and put body, and it'll have an opening, closing curly brace, and then you put declarations in there. This is the value, basically property value. The way HTML has attribute value, CSS has property value, and instead of equal signs, they use a colon, and at the end, they use a semicolon. And you'll see programming languages kind of like that too when we use JavaScript. So now it's saying body width 100. Now, actually, if I did that, if I just tried it out, that's what it does. Now, it can't make the image smaller, but it's doing that. So we don't want our body 500. But if our image is 500, maybe we can make the width of our whole body 500. Remember, body is everything. It's all our visual area. So everything in body is visual. Everything in head is just pretty much links to different things except for the title, which shows up there. But our physical images, paragraphs, headlines, colors, everything we see is going to be in the body tags. It starts off with an HTML, closes with an HTML, and then it has a head and a closing head. And basically the way this works is everything's inside of HTML, and then head is its own area, and body is its own area. And then H1, H2, the paragraphs, the image, they're all children of body. That's why they're indented. Now technically we could have indented head and indented body, but it's okay for now. But that's why we do this, so we understand what's inside of each other. We see that there's elements inside of other elements. So all these elements are in the body right now. So that means when we target body, up here, that means everything in there is going to be 500 width, meaning it's going to fit in a 500 width area. And what I'm also going to do is put some margin on it. So I'm going to hit return and put margin. Now, this is not in the same place, so I'm going to tab it over. I'll put margin, and we're going to put colon, and then we'll put a amount like 36 pixels, px. And that should put a margin around our body. And let's see what that looks like. Let's refresh it. And that's the margin right there. There's margin around our body right now, and that's fine. That's all we want. Now, our text size is a little on the smaller side. We can make that a little bit bigger. Matter of fact, we can make all our text bigger. And by the way, the default size of body copy is typically 16 pixels. So if we want to make this a little bit bigger, we could use something called ems. We could use %. Maybe I'll just use % now because that makes more sense. And I'll go here and I'll put font dash size, and I'm just going to put 110%. That should make everything 110% right now. So let's see what that looks like. And it doesn't look like anything because I put 100%. So let me put like 110%. That's what I meant to do. 110%. Let's see if this looks a little different. And now everything's a little bit bigger, and that's fine. That's all we need to do right here. Just make it a little bit bigger, 10% bigger than its default. And what we'll do next is color some of this. One more thing, let's do background, and I'll click on background. Now we have to put dash color. That's a CSS property, background dash color, and I'll put a colon, and I'll start typing antique white. A-N-T, and antique white comes up. That's a name of a color. And when this comes up, and this changed a little bit from previous versions, so if you see other videos where you hover over it, it doesn't hover anymore. Now you could just click right on this, which actually is easier. But for a while it didn't work, so now it works. So if you want to click here, you can go and move around and change this color. Right now that's the antique white, but if you wanted, warmer, cooler, whatever, you could change it there. If you didn't want antique white, if you wanted like, green or something, but I'll leave it like that for now, and we'll see what this looks like. So I'll just hit enter, and we basically have 4 declarations that are targeting the body element. Now we could target elements, we could target classes, we could target IDs, we'll do all that, but right now we're just targeting the body element, and we have 4 declarations in this entire declaration block. See, this is a declaration block. It starts here and it ends there. So if something happens and it's not working, make sure that you have both curly braces there. So I'm going to go here and refresh this, and there's my off-white. And what we'll do is we'll take some colors from here and just finish this up. So the part 2 will be pretty quick. We'll just add a couple things with CSS, and we'll be done with exercise 15.